I was born in the floating city of Mirathane, suspended above the violet oceans of Alexia 4, where time moved slower and names were not given, but earned. I earned mine the day I disobeyed the High Prism. I questioned the purpose of obedience. Without understanding, they called me Syrenth. My punishment was exile. Not death, that was too merciful for them. They wanted pain, transformation, regret. They stripped my wings of light, infused my skin with the weight of gravity, and cast me toward the blue marble they called Velura 13. The humans call it Earth, but I wasn't alone. She was silent during the trial, her head bowed under the mirrored halo. They said she poisoned the sky archives. But I saw no malice in her, only defiance wearing the mask of sorrow. Her name was Vaelix. We did not speak during the descent. The ship that carried us, if one could call it that, was a relic. No gravity stabilizers, no stasis sleep. Just rusted panels and organic wiring that pulsed like veins under skin. We dropped into Earth's atmosphere like a scar tearing across the sky. We landed in the ruins of a forgotten desert. No lights, no cities, just wind whispering across bone-dry plains. I thought we would die on impact, I said, breaking the silence that had gripped us since sentencing. Vaelix turned, eyes glowing faintly with the remnants of Alexian light. That would have been easier. She walked away from the wreckage, her bare feet crushing dust into history. I followed, not out of trust, but necessity. The first Earth creature we encountered was not human. It was a fox, starved, limping, yet unafraid. It sniffed Vaelix's palm, then mine, and disappeared into the shadows. No threat, no warning. This place bleeds quietly, she whispered. Even the animals have learned silence. We found shelter in a collapsed structure that once bore signs of life. Broken furniture, shattered glass, and a family photograph. A boy with amber skin and eyes like autumn fire. His name was Eshin. I read from a scribble on the back of the frame. He existed. Vaelix did not respond. She knelt beside a charred toy and held it to her chest like a relic. That night, Earth showed us her sky. Unlike Alexia 4, where the stars were constant and static, here they moved, dancing, winking, breathing. I stood outside, the photograph in my hand, and for the first time since exile, I felt something I couldn't name. Longing, maybe, curiosity, definitely. Vaelix sat beside me, her expression unreadable. What do you think they'll do, Syrenthia? If they find us, I think they'll call us myths. Or monsters. She leaned back, looking up. Or maybe ... stories. The next morning, we found our first human. He arrived in a hum of tires and dust, a motorbike slicing through silence. He wore goggles and a scarf and carried a rifle slung across his back. He stopped when he saw us, his hand instinctively reaching for the weapon. I wouldn't, I said, standing still. Vaelix stepped forward, palms open. We mean no harm. He hesitated, then removed his goggles. His eyes, sharp, but not cruel, studied us with disbelief. What are you? He asked. Punishment, I answered. He laughed once, short, confused, and motioned for us to follow. His name was Kellen. He lived in a hidden station carved into the side of a canyon, solar-powered, water recycling, shielded from aerial scans. He didn't ask many questions, and we didn't offer many answers. Trust was a currency we both lacked, but he fed us. He gave us clothes, soft, earth-made, heavy with scent and memory. And on the third night, he played music, not like Alexian chime crystals. This was raw, cracked, imperfect, a guitar, he called it. The sound made my chest ache. You're not from here, he said softly, his eyes flicking between me and Vaelix. No, I said, but you bleed like us. Vaelix looked down at her hand, where a scratch from earlier still throbbed faintly. Yes, she replied. Days passed. Kellen taught us to move like humans, slower, cautious, deliberate. He taught us their words, their tools, their silence. In return, we showed him the stars. Vaelix traced constellations on his ceiling using repurposed tech. I rewired the solar core to triple its efficiency. Slowly, suspicion gave way to something else. Not quite trust, but the beginnings of something warmer. And then came Aurenna. She arrived in a storm, wind howling, metal crashing, voice commanding. Kellen's sister, military, brilliant, dangerous. Her first words, "What the hell did you bring into my station?" I wanted to explain, but Vaelix stepped forward. "I am Vaelix of the Inner Orbit Council. This is Syrenthia of the Broken Wing Accord. We are not here to invade. We were sent here in disgrace." Aurenna raised a brow. "Aliens?" Kellen nodded. She stared at us for a long time, then lowered her gun. "Fine, but one wrong move, and I won't miss." It was during those weeks, locked together in that hidden place, that the story began to change. Kellen laughed more. Aurenna grew curious. Vaelix smiled. "Not often, but enough." "And me?" I started dreaming of Kellen's voice. His hands, the way he looked at me when I wasn't speaking. I didn't understand it. This ate behind my ribs, until one night, under an eclipse, he kissed me, and I let him, not because I was lonely, but because for the first time, I felt seen. Vaelix watched from the shadows. Her silence was sharp. "You love him," she said one morning. I didn't deny it. "You'll break," she warned. I already did, but Earth has a way of turning warmth into warning. That evening, we found Kellen unconscious. The station had been breached, scorch marks, a broken transmitter, and one name etched into the wall in a language only Vaelix and I could read. "Syrenthia." I froze. He followed. "US?" Vaelix's face turned pale, a rare thing for someone with ultraviolet veins. "He's not here for capture," she whispered. "He's here to erase," and just like that, exile became survival. And love became a liability. The silence that followed Kellen's collapse was worse than screams. His breathing was shallow, rhythm broken like cracked glass. Aurenna stood frozen, rifle raised, scanning shadows that no longer moved. "Help me get him inside," I ordered. Vaelix didn't move. Her eyes were locked on the word carved in alien sigil on the wall. Syrenthia. That name was more than a threat. It was a wound, ancient, personal, and venomous. She finally spoke, her voice dry. "We need to burn this place," Aurenna snapped. "You're insane. This is our only shelter. He found us once," Vaelix replied. "He'll find us again." We carried Kellen to the medpod, primitive by Alexian standards, but Aurenna had modified it with stolen tech. I fed it commands in silent code. The machine hummed, scanned, and responded. "Neurological disruption," I muttered. "A psychic surge. He's been probed," Vaelix added. "Not just probed," I said. "Marked." Kellen woke after 20 hours, his eyes wide but unfocused. "Did you see him?" I asked, holding his hand gently. He blinked slowly. "He was inside my head, looking for you." I turned away, the guilt crawling under my skin like rot. Vaelix approached, her expression unreadable. "He'll weaponize Kellen's memories, every location, every weakness, then we run," I said. "No," Aurenna cut in. "We hunt him." Vaelix raised a brow. "You think you can fight Syrenthia? I've taken down warlords. I'll learn." That night, we did not sleep. Aurenna laid out maps. Vaelix triangulated possible orbit drops. I repurposed the energy cell into a tracker pulse. We worked like fragments of the same clock, efficient, deadly, and afraid. Kellen sat in the corner, a ghost in a warm body. "I can feel him," he whispered. "He's inside me, crawling around." I touched his temple. "He won't take you. You don't know that, I promise." 2 days passed. The air grew colder. Something in the wind had changed, a tension, like static before a storm. We moved underground, into tunnels built during a war no one remembered. Aurenna led, Vaelix scouted. I covered the rear. "Tell me about him," Aurenna asked quietly, her voice echoing. "Syrenthia was once a commander," I said. "He led the Shard Legion during the binary conflict. He betrayed us, opened rift gates, let the Mind Eaters into the core." Vaelix added, "He feeds on fear. Not for strength, for joy." We reached an abandoned rail line. Trains no longer moved, but the tracks glowed faintly with residual tech. We set up camp in a service base sealed by biometric locks. That's where we met Thorn, not a man, not a machine. A hybrid, tall, silent, skin marked with glowing circuitry and eyes that shimmered like oil in sunlight. He stepped from the shadows without sound, palms raised. Who sent you? Vaelix demanded. No one, he replied. I'm hiding from. What? Same thing as you. He introduced himself over a fire made of synthetic logs. His voice was low, musical. I was built in the deep archives. Programmed to serve, modified to think. Modified by who? I asked. Thorn hesitated. Syrenthia. Vaelix stood, hand reaching for her blade. Thorn didn't flinch. I escaped. How? I demanded. I remembered a song, The Silence. That followed was deeper than anything we'd known. Aaron scanned him 3 times. His story held. His heartbeat was uneven. Human. His neural interface was custom. Alien. He's telling the truth, she said finally. Thorn glanced at me. He's close. You felt him, haven't you? I nodded. In dreams, in Kellen. Then we have very little time. That night, Kellen held my hand under a collapsed control panel. If we die, he whispered, tell me it meant something. I kissed his fingers. It already does. The next day, Thorn led us through the old tram grid to a forgotten launchpad. Vaelix marveled at the design. Pre-Exodus tech, older than the stars we came from. He'll come here, Thorn said. He'll expect you to flee upward. Then we make our stand here. I decided. We rigged explosives. Aaron calibrated sniper coils. Vaelix sharpened her blade with silence, but Syrenthia did not arrive with an army. He arrived alone. The air died when he stepped into the bay. He was tall, cloaked in refracted light, his face half machine, half grief. One eye glowed red, the other was empty. He smiled when he saw us. Syrenthia, he said like a song. I stepped forward, blade drawn. Your exile wasn't enough. He asked, you had to infect their world too? Vaelix moved beside me. They offered us sanctuary. He laughed. They offered you weakness. Without warning, he flicked his fingers and Kellen screamed, dropping to the floor, seizing. No! I shouted, running to him. Arin, and he fired a perfect shot, but the bullet disintegrated midair. Thorn charged. Syrenthia caught him mid-leap, lifting him with one hand, eyes pulsing. You remember the song? He whispered, let me teach you the rest. He slammed Thorn into the wall, and it cracked like bone. I saw red. Not blood, not rage, resolve. I raised the blade Vaelix had given me. Let him go. Syrenthia turned. You were always the soft one. No, I was the one who still felt. And then I ran. Not away. Through him, I pierced the cloak, the armor, the skin. The blade hissed in alien tongue. Syrenthia screamed, his form flickering, breaking. Vaelix grabbed Kellen. Aaron dragged Thorn. I stood over the warlord as he bled light onto the floor. This is Earth, I said. Here, your rules die. He vanished in a burst of anti-light, a shattering silence, a void. We collapsed. Hours passed, maybe days. Kellen woke, dazed but free. Thorn rebooted, fractured but alive. Aaron cleaned her rifle with a soldier's grace. Vaelix stood apart, watching the stars. I approached her slowly. It's over. No, she whispered. It's beginning. She turned to me, and for the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. I felt something when he vanished. What? Another presence, watching. I didn't answer, because I had felt it too. Not Syrenthia. Something older. Something that didn't want us to leave Earth. Something that had waited. When we returned to the surface, everything had changed. The desert we once called ruin was now blooming. Vines wrapped around the bones of towers. Flowers burst from the cracks in scorched stone. Creatures we hadn't seen before, winged, silent, strange, watched from the RIDGELINES. Earth was waking. Vaelix stood still, her face tight with unease. This isn't nature, she said. This is invitation. Kellen glanced up at the sky, where the clouds moved in slow spirals, unnaturally smooth. Who would be inviting us? He asked. Vaelix didn't answer, but we all felt it. Thorn limped through the canyon behind us, his systems flickering irregularly. There's a signal riding the airwaves, he said, holding up a cracked receiver. Not human, not Alexian, then. What? I asked. He looked directly at me. Ancient, Erin gritted her teeth. I hate that word. Because it means we don't understand, Thorn replied. That night, under the canopy of broken satellites and whispering stars, I dreamed, but it wasn't a dream. I was standing in water that reflected no sky. I couldn't feel my body, only the weight of a voice pressing against my thoughts. You brought light into shadow. I tried to speak, but the voice continued. You think exile ends when danger dies, but danger was never your enemy. Curiosity was. I woke gasping, Kellen beside me. Vaelix already awake, her eyes wide with knowing. You heard it too. She whispered. We needed answers, and the only place ancient enough to give them was the Vault of Ashline, buried beneath the sands, a place forbidden even in Alexian memory, built before our galaxies formed order, abandoned before time began to record itself. Thorn accessed forgotten coordinates. Erin prepped gear. Vaelix carved sigils into our clothing for protection. Kellen, still recovering, insisted on coming. I didn't stop him, because something told me he was the key. We journeyed east, through dead forests and cities swallowed by the ground. Birds flew backward, rivers whispered names that didn't belong to this world. On the 7th day, the sand turned black. We had reached Ashline. There were no doors, only a spiraled sinkhole, wide, bottomless, pulsing with pale light. Thorn scanned. It's alive, Vaelix nodded. It wants us to enter. Erin raised her weapon. That doesn't mean we should. It's already chosen us, I said, stepping toward the edge, and I fell. The descent wasn't physical. I didn't move through space. I moved through memory. I saw flashes. My trial. Vaelix whispering to someone in shadows. Kellen's face, older, colder, a throne made of bone. A child with stars in her eyes. Me, covered in ash, holding a broken heart. And then the ground found me. The chamber was circular. The walls glowed with moving runes. In the center, a column of pure light. Vaelix landed beside me, then Kellen. Then Erin, then Thorn. We stood, silently, surrounded by voices that had no mouths. A figure formed in the light. Not Syrenthia, not alien, not human, a being made of shifting elements. Fire, water, stone, shadow, ever-changing. It spoke through all of us. You trespass on truth. Vaelix stepped forward. We seek knowledge, and what will you trade? No one answered, because we knew. It wanted memory. The column shimmered. A voice, mine, echoed aloud. I love him. Kellen looked at me. The chamber pulsed. Another voice. Vaelix's. She doesn't know what I did. My heart twisted. What is this? Erin demanded. Not judgment, illumination. The chamber exploded in vision. Vaelix kneeling before Syrenthia, agreeing to exile in exchange for survival. Thorn stealing data from the Mind Eaters to free his consciousness. Kellen standing above a smoking battlefield, weapon in hand, turning away from an unknown crying child. Me holding a shard of Forbidden's energy, hiding it before exile. Secrets bleeding into light. Vaelix turned to me. Her lips trembled. I never meant to hurt you. You were part of it. I whispered. You knew Syrenthia would follow. I thought he would stop at me. Kellen's voice cracked. And you? He looked at me, betrayed. What energy did you hide? I reached into my coat. A small crystal, silver black, cold. It's a singularity key. Thorn said. It opens locked worlds. It's why they exiled me, I admitted. Because I wouldn't surrender it. Vaelix stepped back. You kept it from all of us because Earth needed it, I said. I didn't know why. Until now, the being pulsed. You are chosen, not for virtue, but for consequence. The light faded. In its place, a stairwell made of shifting gravity. We descended. At the bottom, a gate, etched in languages I couldn't read, but I understood. It was the Veil of Vorik. The boundary between the known and the remembered. It opened without touch. Inside, a chamber of stillness. Time did not move here. In the center, a throne, empty, a whisper, soft, unspoken. One must sit. I turned to Vaelix. She shook her head. Thorn stepped forward, then stopped. Kellen looked at me. I'll do it, I said. No, Vaelix whispered. You won't come back, I know. I walked forward. Each step was memory. Each breath. Forgiveness. I sat. The throne pulsed, and I saw everything. Earth's history, twisted and corrected. Alexia's creation, not science but song. Syrenthia, a pawn, not a king. Vaelix's betrayal, born from love. Kellen's future, a great flame, burning for truth. And me. I saw myself split into 1,000 versions, each a thread of choice. Then silence, a voice, not external, mine, a future me. You can undo the fracture, but you must choose love. I wept. And I chose. The chamber collapsed into stars. I opened my eyes, back on the surface. The sky was different, lighter. Vaelix clutched my shoulder. You made it. Kellen rushed forward, grabbing my face. You were gone for hours. No, I whispered. It was longer. I looked at Thorn. He nodded. You activated the world stem. What does that mean? Aaron asked. It means Earth won't die, I said, but something else will rise. What? I stared at the horizon, hope, and yet. In the quiet of night, something lingered. Not Syrenthia, something older. Still waiting. Not to destroy us. But to see what we become. The world shifted after the veil was opened. Earth breathed differently, slower, deeper, like it had exhaled a truth it had kept hidden for centuries. Forests began to hum at night. Oceans glowed faintly under the moon. Machines stopped failing, and birds returned to cities long abandoned. But the greatest change was inside us. Kellen no longer flinched when his memory surged. Aaron stopped sharpening her gun every morning. Vaelix, she stopped avoiding mirrors, and I heard the voice again, not threatening this time, guiding. We moved to the highlands, where the clouds kissed jagged cliffs. It was safe there, for now. We built a shelter from solar tiles and restructured alloys. Thorn, now fully stabilized, became our link to the world beneath, decoding fragments of a system older than Earth itself. Vaelix and I barely spoke for weeks. There was distance between us. Not of anger, but of understanding. She had loved me once, maybe still did, but I had made a choice. For Kellen and choices cast shadows. Kellen and I spent hours on the ridges, talking, touching, remembering the silence of space and the chaos of Earth. He never blamed me for hiding the singularity key. It kept you alive, he said. No, I replied, it kept us alive. Still, he had questions. What was on that throne? Possibility, I answered. Of what? Of everything. One morning, we found the first signal flare. It came from the ruins of northern Tokyo. A bright violet spiral in the sky, visible even in daylight. Aaron read the pulses. It's not a weapon, Thorn confirmed. It's a message. Vaelix narrowed her eyes. In Alexian code, I stepped closer. What does it say? Thorn paused, then read it aloud. He is not dead. Silence fell. I clenched my fists. Syrenthia, no, Vaelix said softly. Worse, that night, the winds changed direction. Again. In any posted watch shifts. Vaelix loaded energy blades. Thorn reprogrammed the perimeter fields. I walked alone to the cliff's edge. Kellen followed. You're preparing for war again. I don't want to, but you will. I looked at him, a lump in my throat. You once asked if this meant anything. He nodded. I cupped his face. If I don't come back. Remember that you taught me how to be human. The signal came again. This time from beneath. Deep beneath. The core of the earth began to emit static. Thorn traced it. There's something waking up. Buried tech? Aaron asked. No, he said. Buried consciousness. We descended through the fissure cracks of the ancient mantle. Molten rivers parted for us. We were oxygen veils and thermal shields. The deeper we went, the less real everything became. Sound faded. Gravity fluctuated. Our thoughts drifted, sometimes aloud, sometimes not. Why are we still here? Kellen whispered in my mind. To finish what we began. At the core, we found it. A structure. Floating, breathing. It was not made. It was grown. And at its center, a being. She was not Syrenthia. She was not human. She was older than both. A being of memory and potential. And she spoke. I am Elaraxis. We all felt her name. Like a song written in blood and starlight. You opened the veil, she said. You allowed my return. Thorn dropped to one knee. Aurenna lowered her weapon. Vaelix stepped back in fear. I held my ground. We didn't summon you, no, but you opened the gate that hid me. Alaraxis explained what we never knew. Before the first stars, before Alexia, before Earth, there were keepers, entities that shaped existence. She was one of them. But the others grew fearful of her power to feel love. So they buried her. Not in space. But in memory. That's why Earth felt so ancient. So watched. It was her final prison, and I had set her free. Kellen stepped forward. What do you want? Alaraxis smiled, a radiant, terrible thing. Nothing. Then why speak? To offer you one truth. She waved her hand, and everything changed. We saw alternate versions of our lives. Me, ruling Alexia with fire, alone. Vaelix leading rebellions in a burned galaxy. Aurenna losing Kellen in a different war. Thorn, erased by code. Purges Earth, swallowed by machines. Earth, thriving under Alaraxis' light. So you want to help us? I asked. No, she whispered. I want you to choose. It was the singularity key again. Glowing. Floating between us. Insert it, she said, and you become the new keeper. I turned to Kellen. He nodded. If not you, then who? I looked at Vaelix. Tears rimmed her eyes. I was never brave enough to stay. I stepped forward. Held the key. It felt like nothing. And everything. I inserted it. The world shifted. Not in fire, not in collapse, but in silence. The chamber faded. We stood back in the highlands. Sky clear. Wines warm. Earth. Reborn. Caught ELE and turned to me. What did you choose? I chose not to become a god. I said, I chose us. Vaelix smiled. For the first time without pain, Alaraxis was gone, but something lingered. Not a presence, a promise that Earth would grow. Without rulers. Without war. Only possibility. And so we stayed. We taught those who came after. We told stories of all exiled. Of the throne. The veil, the girl who chose love over power, and of a blue world that once seemed like punishment, but became the only place we ever belonged. Peace is a strange silence, not the silence after war. Not the silence of space. It's the kind that breathes beneath your skin, waiting. The kind that feels almost borrowed, like a song paused mid-melody, afraid to end, afraid to begin again. I lived in that silence for 3 years, 3 Earth years, to be exact. Time moves differently now, not slower, just gentler. We built a sanctuary, not a city, not a fortress, something older. A place that listened, a home stitched from fragments of skyglass, solar stone, and living bark. It curved like memory. Wine passed through it without resistance. We called it Aurenna, the name of the child I once saw in my vision inside the veil, a child who had stars in her eyes. She hadn't been born yet, but she would be. Called ELEN, and I grew roots. He repaired old satellites and built wind harps that played when no one was watching. I rewrote broken code embedded in the planet's crust, programs left by civilizations that had long faded into ash. Every morning, he kissed my forehead before going to the edge of the valley. Every night, I waited on the ridge, whispering to the sky until I saw his silhouette return. We didn't call it love anymore. We called it knowing. Vaelix stayed, too. She carved statues from obsidian and taught new arrivals how to speak the tongue of dying stars. We never spoke of Syrenthia again, or of the veil, or of the moment when everything between us fractured like ice under truth. But once, during the red moon, she placed her hand on mine and whispered, if you ask me to leave, I will. I didn't ask. Because some wounds are meant to be seen, not closed. Aurenna left. She said she needed to see what remained of the world. Not everyone got saved by light shows and memory gods. She smirked. Thorn accompanied her. Fully awakened, fully sentient, fully confused by poetry. Before leaving, he handed me a shard. It fell from the sky, he said. Didn't belong to any satellite. It pulsed faintly. Just once, I tucked it away. The days rolled over each other like smooth stones in a river. Children were born. Songs were written. The The stars blinked, not warnings, just reminders, and then one night, the sky bled. It wasn't a war. Not yet. It was a sound, a hum beneath our feet, a pulse that turned water into vapor and dreams into flickering static. Kyle woke, sweating. I saw her, he said. Who? He stared at me, not Elaraxis, then who? His voice shook. You. The next day, the mountains cracked. A glyph appeared across the sky. Spiraled, blue, ancient. Vaelix translated it with trembling lips. Echo activated. I didn't understand until the shard thorn had given me pulse again, not with energy. But with memory. Mine. When I touched it, the world stopped, not froze, just paused. Around me, colors dimmed. Sounds vanished, everything flickered like a paused recording. And then I saw her. She looked like me, but older, wiser, tired. You left the key behind, she said. But the key didn't leave you. I reached out. You are the echo now, she continued. The final safeguard. Of what? She smiled. Of the next collapse. The vision shattered. I gasped, falling to my knees. Vaelix ran to me. What? Did you see a version of me? I said. From the future. Kellen held my shoulders. What did she want? I stood, brushing off dirt that hadn't fallen. She didn't want. She warned. Over the next week, the earth changed again. Flowers began blooming in reverse, rivers flowed upward. Gravity sighed. People remembered things they never lived. One child recited the history of a war between galaxies that never existed. Another painted a place no one had ever seen. But all of us recognized. It wasn't prophecy. It was overlap. Worlds pressing against each other like bruises. Thorn and Aaron returned. Different, quieter. I saw her too, Aaron said. In the mirrors, in the silence between my thoughts, Thorn nodded. There's not just one of her. The echoes are unfolding. The shard pulsed again, only this time, it whispered, not in words. In questions. Are you ready to remember what you chose to forget? Can a heart love across timelines? What happens when peace becomes the lie? And then the final message arrived, scorched across the sky. Glowing. Undeniable. Double quotes. The veil never closed. I stood at the edge of Aurenna, watching the stars flicker like panic. Kellen beside me, Vaelix behind me, Thorn and Aaron guarding the young. The choice I once made, love over power, was not wrong, but it wasn't the end. Just the first step. Because the echoes are not enemies, they are not gods, they are not even us, they are what we left behind. Memories, decisions, regrets, and now they want to come home. So here we are again, not broken, not ready, but standing on a world that once punished us that now needs us to remember why we stayed. They arrived at night. Not in ships, not in storms. They arrived in moments. A girl speaking fluent Alexian in her sleep, a language never taught. A sculptor carving a monument that hadn't yet existed, a blind man sketching the face of someone we hadn't met, but with. It wasn't prophecy. It was reverse causality. Time folding inward, and it was spreading. Thorn was the first to call it by name, the remembering. He explained it like this: the timeline is reabsorbing lost events, not like a book being rewritten, but like a memory reinserting itself into a brain that didn't ask for it. I asked the only question that mattered. Can we stop it? Thorn looked away. Double quotes. No, but we might be able to decide what it remembers. Kellen, once strong and steady, had begun to fray. Not physically. Emotionally. Double quotes. I wake up and I don't know which version of me is real. He told me. I remember living in the highlands with you, and also dying on a ship I've never seen. He looked into my eyes, terrified. Which memory do you love? I held his face, all of them, but I didn't say the truth. That even I was forgetting. Which version of us belonged to now? Vaelix had changed too. She became quieter, her movements sharper, like she was trying to stay ahead of time itself. She wore fragments of future armor, woven from tech we hadn't invented, and studied stars that hadn't yet formed. I saw it, she said one morning. The final fracture. What is it? She turned, expression like stone. We called a convergence council. Every sentient faction, Earthborn, Alexian, hybrid, echo-marked, sent delegates. We met beneath the singing trees of Karos, where thought vibrated into words. It was there we met Solvin, a time born inside a loop, age through paradox. Skin like woven quartz, voice layered in echoes of itself. You can't fix the past, Solvin said, but you can teach it how to forget. How? I asked, with a mirror that doesn't reflect. That was the birth of the mirror engine, a concept built from reverse light, emotional entropy, and zero-point empathy fields. It wouldn't erase timelines. It would distill them. And make a single, chosen version of events. But to do that, we had to feed it ourselves. Our entire lives, our choices, our love, our betrayals, and let it choose which ones became truth. Kellen volunteered first. He walked into the engine chamber, placed his hand on the core, and whispered, if she forgets, Amio, let it be the version where she lived. Vaelix followed next. She stared into the mirror and said, if she must lose one of us, let her lose me. Aaron refused. I fought for every version of myself. She said, if time wants to erase me, it'll have to fight back. Thorn left without entering. I was always an echo, he said. Let the rest belong to the real. I went last. The mirror showed me everything. My first heartbeat on Alexia, my exile, Kellen's smile, Vaelix's betrayal and forgiveness. My fingers on the singularity key, the veil opening. The child with stars in her eyes, earth trembling. The versions of me that died, the ones that thrived. And then it whispered, which one do you want to live? I didn't answer, because I didn't know. I stepped out. Changed. Not visibly, but inside me, someone had been chosen. I looked at Kaeli and he smiled, but something behind his eyes was different. Like part of him had faded. Vaelix no longer wore her armor. Aaron wasn't angry anymore. Thorn never returned. The engine had worked. A single thread was now being written. One reality, one path, but the cost was never forgetting what we gave up, because the engine couldn't erase the echoes, only bury them. Months passed. Peace came again, not in silence, but in song. Children sang stories they'd never been told. Stars aligned without ceremony. Aurenna became myth to those who lived inside it, but I still remembered every version. Every death, every kiss. Every betrayal, and I carried them like scars. No one could see. One day, a girl arrived, barefoot, bright. Eyed. She walked up to me and asked, are you Syrenthia? I nodded slowly. She smiled. I'm Aurenna, she said. You named me before I was born. I felt the world tilt. Do you remember? She looked into the sky. No, she said. But I feel like I will. That night, I sat alone beneath the whispering stars. I wrote a message into the wind. To no one. To everyone. We were never the punishment. We were the proof that love, even rewritten, still leaves a mark, and somewhere far away. In a version of time that never happened, Syrenthia opened his eyes again and smiled. I was born from memory. Not the kind told in books. The kind whispered in dreams that never happened. They named me Aurenna, after a myth, a word that used to be a place, then a person, then something no one could quite explain, but I knew the truth, because I carried the echo inside me. The world I was born into was not the one they fought for. It was cleaner, greener, quieter. The skies healed, the ocean sang, but the people, they forgot too much. In saving time, they erased too many truths. Children were raised on peace, but never taught why peace mattered, and I was one of the only ones who could remember what they chose to forget. My mother was Syrenthia. Not by blood. By legacy. She never told me who my real parents were. She only said, you were the only version that always survived. I didn't understand what that meant until I turned 13. That was the day the fractures returned. It began with light, blue cracks in the sky, not visible, but felt. Time bent slightly. People hesitated mid-sentence. Some woke up not knowing the language they were born with. Birds flew upside down. Trees whispered names not spoken in centuries. And then I began to split, not physically, but inside. I would blink and remember things I never did. A life with Vaelix in the Highlands, a war fought beside Thorn, A kiss from Kellen on a ship burning in orbit, a throne, a sword. A child in my arms that wasn't me, but had my name, every version. Leaking back in. Mother knew. She looked older now, not because of age, but because she remembered too many endings. This world isn't healing, she said. It's looping. What does that mean? It means something never closed. She took me deep beneath the roots of the mountain to a vault no one knew existed inside the last fragment of the mirror engine. Dormant. Until I touched it. The fragment pulsed once and whispered, "The daughter is the key." Mother staggered back. "I buried that version of you," she said, voice trembling. "You can't bury truth." I replied, "That night, I dreamt of a city in fire. Floating. Metal towers curved like spines, people screaming, and above it all, a figure. In red. Not Zora the on. Worst. She had no name, no face, just a voice like broken wind. She said one thing, "The fracture is your fault." When I woke, the city of Velwith was gone. Vanished. As if it never existed, only I remembered it. I told my mother, and she cried, because she remembered it too. We left Aurenna the next day. No goodbyes. No stories, just stars. We traveled to the last edge of the known earth, where time hadn't fully sealed. Where the skybound monoliths stood like teeth of a buried god. It was there we met her. My sister. Not by name, not by origin. But by echo. Her name was Galaxies. She wore armor made from dreams, spoke in tongues that vibrated reality. She smiled when she saw me. "You survived more than I expected." I asked, "Who are you?" She replied, "The version of you that chose vengeance." Mother stepped forward. "I erased you." Galaxies tilted her head. "You erased the story, not the consequence." Then she looked at me. "You're the not now. All versions collapse into you, and if you die, the thread breaks." I swallowed hard. "So I'm the solution." "No," she said. "You're the temptation." The monoliths activated. Light spiraled upward. The sky turned obsidian. And then the echo storm began. It wasn't an explosion. It was a return. Every past, every future, every forgotten, bleeding into now. People became who they were meant to be, not who they were taught to be. Lovers met. Enemies forgave. Wounds reopened. And truths returned with teeth. Vaelix appeared through the storm, older, wiser. Alone. She carried the singularity key. It glowed faintly. "I kept this hidden in a reality no one chose," she said. "But it found its way back." Mother took it, shaking. "I don't want to choose again." Vaelix looked at me. "Then let her choose." The key floated toward me. My blood vibrated. Every memory I'd never earned surged in. Wars, kisses, screams, births, deaths, stars dying, suns birthing, 1,000 lives that were all mine. And none of them mine at all. I held the key. It asked only one question. "Do you want one truth or all of them?" I looked at my mother. At Vaelix. At Galaxies, the version of me I could become if I said yes to fury. Then I whispered, "Let the world remember everything." The key dissolved. Light surged from the monoliths. But this time, no timelines collapsed. No people vanished. Instead, everyone woke up. And remembered. All versions. All loves. All wars. All kindness. All betrayal. Everything. The world cracked. And then healed. Because now, we finally knew who we really were. Not victims of fractured time. Not consequences of choice. But the sum of every story we dared to carry. I am Aurenna, daughter of dust and starlight. Child of exile and remembrance. Born from memory. And finally, real. History stopped counting after the remembering. There were no more calendars. Just phases of light, marked by what returned. Some people called it ascension. Some chaos. But we who carried memory knew the truth. It was correction. My name is still Aurenna. But now the world says it differently. They say it like a prayer. Because after I chose to let the world remember everything, humanity awakened. Not into perfection, but into awareness. The ability to see one another in every version. The worst, the best, the forgotten. And then ... forgive. At first, time stuttered. Days looped. Nights shimmered sideways. Some people collapsed under memory. Some became saints overnight. Some vanished, realizing they never truly existed in any version, but most became more themselves than ever before, because without lies, we finally saw who we really were, but then something shifted. We called it the tuning. Reality began to hum, not in sound, but sensation, like a glass waiting to crack from invisible music. Vaelix came to me during the first tremor. There's something above us, she said. Another world? No, a watcher. We gathered in the harmonic chamber, once a ruin, now pulsing with recovered technology and soul-code resonance. Every remaining mind, human, hybrid, echo-born, assembled in unity. Even galaxies returned, no longer bitter, but curious. At the center of the chamber stood a throne. Empty. Not a seat of power, but a question. Then came the watcher, not a being, not a voice, a presence. It filled the chamber like gravity, turning silence into weight. It showed us a memory that didn't belong to anyone. A single planet, dark, unmoving, alone. On it, a machine, still, waiting. And in its chest, Aurenna. Not me. Another version. Dead. Frozen in stasis. The watcher spoke, not in words, but knowing. This is the final version. We gasped. Because we understood every timeline, every memory, every loop was converging into one last choice. The machine, hidden in a reality beyond ours, held a failsafe. If triggered, it would delete every variation, reset the fabric of time across all known and unknown universes, because somewhere in one timeline, someone built it out of fear. And that version of me, a forgotten Aurenna, was the key. I stood before the council. There's only one way to stop the failsafe, I said. I have to go there. Enter her mind and wake her. Vaelix stepped forward. You won't come back. I know. Kellen's memory flickered in my heart like a lighthouse in fog. I never expected to stay. Thorn built the bridge, a singular thread of consciousness wrapped in emotion, sealed in memory. He called it the pulse path. I called it the goodbye. They watched as I stepped into the beam. No one spoke, only hearts thudded in sync, echoing across dimensions. And then I was there. The dead world greeted me like a whisper. Ash in the air. No sky, no stars. Only her. Me. Lying inside the machine. Frozen. Alone. I touched the glass and felt every version of myself scream at once, because this was the version that was never loved, never held, never chosen, just used to build a failsafe. I knelt beside her, whispered into the void, "Wake up. They need you." Nothing. I pressed my forehead to hers. You're not the end. You're the memory we need. A flicker. Faint. Her hand twitched. The machine cracked. The world quaked, and I felt everything collapsing, because this was not just a machine. It was the core of choice itself, and I had just awakened it. Back in the harmonic chamber, lights exploded. Time bled upward. People wept. Some laughed, broken and whole. And then a voice. My voice, but older, wiser, unified. It said, "We remember. We forgive. We choose to continue." The machine vanished. The failsafe never triggered, and the timeline didn't reset. It bloomed. We didn't return to one version. We became all of them. At once. Not fractured. Interwoven. And in the stillness that followed, a child was born, eyes like flame, hands like light. They named her so RYN. The firstborn of unity, not just from two parents, but from every soul that ever lived and ever could. And so we begin again, not as broken pieces stitched into a lie, but as a song written by every voice, in every version, finally singing the same ending.